Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. The water just went on and on. It was all you could see. It looked like a huge blue pasture of water. Are we at the ocean? Graham asked. We're not supposed to be passing the ocean, are we? You gooseberry. That's Lake Michigan. Graham kissed his finger and put it against Graham's cheek. I sure would like to put my feet in that water, Graham said. Graham swerved across 2 lanes of traffic and onto the exit ramp. And faster than you could milk a cow, we were standing barefoot in the cool water of Lake Michigan. The waves splashed up on our clothes, and the seagulls flew in overhead, calling in one great chorus, as if they were glad to see us. Huzzah, huzzah, Graham said, wiggling her heels into the sand. Huzzah, huzzah. We stopped that night on the outskirts of Chicago. I looked around at what I could see in Illinois from the Howard Johnson Motel, and it might as well have been 7,000 miles from the lake. It all looked precisely like northern Ohio to me, with its flat land and long, straight roads. I thought, what a long journey this was going to be. With the dark came the whispers. Rush, hurry, rush. That night I lay there, trying to imagine Lewiston, Idaho, but my mind would not go forward to a place I had never been. Instead, I kept drifting back to Bybanks. When my mother left for Lewiston, Idaho, that April, my first thoughts were, how could you do that? How could you leave me? As the days went on, many things were harder and sadder, but some things were strangely easier. When my mother had been there, I was like a mirror. If she was happy, I was happy. If she was sad, I was sad. For the first few days after she left, I felt numb, non-feeling. I didn't know how to feel. I would find myself looking around for her to see what I might want to feel. On one day, about 2 weeks after she had left, I was standing against the fence watching a newborn calf wobbling on its thin legs. It tripped and wobbled. Tripped and wobbled and swung its big head in my direction, and it gave me a sweet, loving look. Oh, I thought, I am happy at this moment in time. I was surprised that I knew this all by myself, without my mother there. And that night in bed, I did not cry. I said to myself, Slamakutree Hiddle, you can be happy without her. It seemed a mean thought, and I was sorry for it, but it felt true. In the motel, and as I was remembering these things, Graham came and sat on the edge of my bed. She said, do you miss your daddy? Do you want to call him? I did miss him, and I did want to call him, but I said, no, I'm fine, really. He might think I was a goose if I had to call him already. Okay then, chickabiddy, Graham said. And when she leaned over to kiss me, I could smell the baby powder she always used. That smell made me feel sad, but I didn't know why. The next morning, when we got lost leaving Chicago, I prayed, please don't let us get into an accident. Please let us get there in time, Graham said. At least it's a mighty fine day for a drive. When we finally found a road heading west, we took it. Our plan was to curve across the lower part of Wisconsin, veer into Minnesota, and then barrel straight on through Minnesota, South Dakota, and Wyoming, sweep up into Montana, and then cross the Rocky Mountains into Idaho. Gramps figured it would take us about a day in each state. He didn't intend to stop too much until we reached South Dakota, and he was really looking forward to South Dakota. We're gonna see the Badlands, he said. We're gonna see the Black Hills. I didn't like the sound of either of those places, but I knew why we were going there. My mother had been there. The bus that she took out to Lewiston stopped in all the tourist spots. We were following along in her footsteps. Chapter 8. The Lunatic. Once we were well out on the road of Illinois, Graham said, "Go on with Phoebe. What happened next?" "Do you want to hear about the lunatic?" "Goodness," Graham said, "as long as it's not too bloody. That Phoebe is just like Gloria, I swear. A lunatic. Imagine." Graham said, "Did Gloria really have a hankering for me?" "Maybe she did, and maybe she didn't," Graham said. "Oh, god dang, I was only asking." "Seems to me," Graham said, "you've got enough to worry about. Concentrating on these rows without worrying about Gloria." Graham winked at me in the rearview mirror. "I think our gooseberry's jealous," he said. "I am not," Graham said. "Tell about Peavy, Chickabiddy." I didn't want Graham and Grams to get in a fight over Gloria, so I was happy to continue telling Phoebe's story. I was at Phoebe's one Saturday morning when Mary Lou Finney called and invited us over to her house. Phoebe's parents were over, and Phoebe went all around the house checking to make sure that the doors and windows were locked. Her mother had already done this, but she made Phoebe promise to do it as well, just in case, Mrs. Winterbottom had said. I was not sure, just in case, of what. Maybe in case someone had snuck in and opened all the windows and doors in the 15 minutes between the time she had left and the time we did. "You can never be too careful," Mrs. Winterbottom had said. Doorbell rang. Phoebe and I looked out the window. Standing on the porch was a young man who looked about 17 or 18. Although I am not good at guessing people's ages, as blind Mrs. Partridge is, the young man was wearing a black t-shirt and blue jeans, and his hands were stuffed in his pockets. He seemed nervous. "My mother hates it when strangers come to the door," Phoebe said. "She is convinced that any day one of them will burst into the house with a gun and turn out to be an escaped lunatic." "Oh, honestly, Phoebe," I said, "do you want me to answer the door?" Phoebe took a deep breath. "We'll do it together." She opened the door and said, "Hello," in a cool voice. "Is this 49 Gray Street?" The young man said. "Yes," Phoebe said. "So the Winterbottoms live here?" After Phoebe admitted that yes, it was the Winterbottom residence, she said, "Excuse me a moment, please," and she closed the door. "Sal, do you detect any signs of lunacy?" "There doesn't appear to be any place he could be hiding a gun. His jeans are really tight. Maybe he has a knife tucked into his socks." Phoebe could be really dramatic. "He isn't wearing any socks," I said. Phoebe opened the door again. "I want to see Mrs. Winterbottom. Is she here or what?" "Yes," Phoebe lied. The young man looked up and down the street. His hair was curled and used, and there were bright pink circles on his cheek. He wouldn't look us straight into the eye, but kept glancing left and right. "I want to talk to her," he said. "She can't come to the door right now," Phoebe said. I thought he might actually cry when Phoebe said that. He chewed on his lip and blinked 3 or 4 times quickly. "I'll wait," he said. "Just a minute," Phoebe said, closing the door, and pretended to look for her mother. "Mom," she called. "Yoo-hoo." She went upstairs, thumping loudly on the steps. "Mother." Phoebe and I returned to the door. She was still standing there with his hands in his pockets and staring mournfully at Phoebe's house. "That's strange," Phoebe said. "I thought she was here, but she must have gone out. There's a whole lot of other people here," she said. She added quickly, "Scads and scads of people, but no Mrs. Winterbottom." "Is Mrs. Winterbottom your mother?" "Yes," Phoebe said. "Would you like me to leave a message?" The little pink circles on his cheek became even pinker. No, he said. No, I don't think so. No. He looked up and down the street, then at the number at the door. What's your name? Phoebe. Phoebe. He repeated her name. Phoebe Winterbottom. I thought he was going to make a joke about her name, but he didn't. He glanced at me. Are you Winterbottom too? He asked. No, I said. I'm a visitor. And then he left. He just turned around, walked slowly down the porch steps and on down to the street. We waited until he had finally turned the corner before we left. We ran all the way to Mary Lou's. Phoebe was certain that that young man was going to ambush us. Honestly, like I said, she has a vivid imagination.